What's up, wellness junkies? It's the girl with the business brain and yoga body, Sabrina Zealous, welcoming you to Yoga Socialite. This is the place where asana meets aesthetics. So we're here for the good vibes, the cute fits, and the real talk. Let's get into it.
What's up, wellness junkies, and welcome back to your next episode of Yoga Socialite Pod. Today's episode was actually supposed to be about frenemies and how group texts are the new burn books. And you're still gonna get that episode, don't you worry. And it's probably good that I postponed that episode because I was going through it when I wrote that episode. However, something more tragic happened that I feel like needs to be talked about, and that is the LA fires. And I wanna talk about how to navigate the LA fires as an empath. And I wanna discuss the chaos of it, the compassion of it, the crisis of it, and use this as a processing playground for all of us today. First and foremost, my heart goes out to everyone that's been affected by the fires and indirectly affected by the fires. The whole city of the Pacific Palisades, of Altadena. I mean, there's just so many things that I could list. I have friends that have been evacuated. My best friend has been evacuated for several days now. I have friends whose family members have lost homes. And I am feeling all of the feels because though I live in Palm Springs area now, LA was my home outside of Texas. I moved from Texas to LA, and a lot of the places that I used to go to, a lot of the streets I used to drive on, a lot of the communities that I used to visit are now gone. And it's so many feelings within that I can't even fully process and explore yet myself. But I thought that it might be good to hold space in this podcast to do so. If you're wondering what an empath is, I know you probably heard of sympathy and empathy. And sympathy is like when you can feel sorry for someone, but empathy is like you can feel sorry for someone because you've always also experienced that kind of pain. But empaths often absorb the energy of the world around them. And during a crisis, that can feel so overwhelming. So today we're going to dive into how empaths can protect their energy, how you can process the emotions that are going on, how you can turn that into compassion and meaningful action. And of course, I'll be sharing resources to help those in need. So let's get into it. When I think of an empath, I think of Charmed, because you know I'm a 90s, 2000s girly, and I think of Charmed. I think of Phoebe, who was Alyssa Milano's character. For a quick second, I almost said Alanis Morissette's character. Why? I don't know. Maybe the initials were throwing me off. Maybe it's the dark hair vibes. I don't know. I don't know why I got those two confused for a second. And also, fun fact, I have a matching tattoo with Alyssa Milano because my 18-year-old self loved Charmed that much. Yes, it's true. But I think of Phoebe off of Charmed. And if you haven't watched Charmed, maybe pick up an episode. The OG Charmed, then the revamp one, no thank you. But the OG Charmed, it did not need to be revamped. And please do not go out there and try to revamp Clueless. Like, that just came to me as I'm talking about this. Please do not go out there and do that either. But that is what I think about when I think about an empath. And I think that's probably one of the greatest examples, like physical examples that you could visually see. I'm a visual person to kind of understand what empathy is, because she could take on people's energy and she had to learn how to do energy shields and acknowledge that. But I first, again, want to take a moment just to acknowledge the situation. The LA fires have caused so much devastation. As I mentioned, I know people that have been affected. There's a lot of people now here in the desert that have been affected, that are visiting the yoga studio, and we're holding space with them, for them in the studio. And it's just gut-wrenching to watch. If you know me, I do not watch the news. I always get my news from my friends, my boyfriend. I don't like watching the news because, again, that empath part of me, like, I can feel that energy, and I don't like to watch it because it's hard for me to shield myself from it. And I've been watching the news to kind of stay up to date on anything. And if you're someone who is also watching and you're not even affected by the place that it's at, that collective energy feels so heavy. And we're sensitive to that. Regardless if you're an empath or not, you're sensitive to that. But here's the good news. We don't have to drown in that heaviness. We can take that knowledge, that space, and we can create hope and action. And the first thing I want to talk about is to create that hope and action. You have to start to learn how to navigate crisis, because this isn't going to be our first crisis in the world. It isn't the first crisis in the world, and it's definitely not going to be our last crisis. I mean, we just had the stuff in North Carolina a few months ago. I was stuck in Texas when we had that huge Texas snowstorm that took out all the electrical grids. I was there in Texas during that time. Knock on wood let me knock on actual wood over there, that doesn't happen the next time I visit Texas. But this isn't our first crisis. This isn't going to be our last crisis as a world, as a society. And we want to talk about how to navigate that. So the first thing I want to encourage you to do is, when crises happen, is to ground yourself. I shared an Instagram post. I'll make sure to link it in the description of this. That may be helpful to you. It also has resources, which we'll talk about at the end of this. Well, it has resources for how to help others in this situation that are navigating this situation. But one of the things I did include is a grounding practice. And in that post, I actually did a 4-7-8 breath, and I lead it through, vocally lead it, as well as have a visual that goes with it. But I also want to give you one of my favorite grounding practices for anxiety, for when things feel chaotic and you're having a sense of losing control. And that is the 5 method. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method is sometimes it's called. I like to call it Take 5 method. And what you do is you start to use your 5 senses to navigate where you're at in this moment, and it brings you back into yourself, because you're taking your mind off of what is the chaos and you're taking your mind to your senses. And we're going to practice it together. So the first thing you do is you name 5 things you can see. And we're going to do this in the video. So the 5 things I can see my couch behind me. I've got an Amazon package back there. I can see my ivies that are thriving. That's so big for me, all because I am not a plant mom, but now I am. They have been doing great. I can see our TV. I can see my amazing little TV. What is that called? TV holder? I don't know. I can't think of the name of what this actually is. My boyfriend would be so disappointed in me right now as a contractor. Our handmade TV cabinetry. And I can see the hot seat. Then you're going to do 4 things you can touch. I can touch my pink velour Beyond Yoga suit. It's one of my favorite things to touch. I can touch my hair. I can touch the ring on my finger. That's number 3. And I can touch our handy dandy iPad. 3 things that you can hear. You can hear, and I can hear, the sound of my voice. I like to close my eyes when I do the things you can hear, so I can really bring my attention to what I'm hearing. I hear an airplane going by. And I hear the leaf blower outside as well. What are the 3 things that you can hear? 2 things that you can smell. I can smell my honey lemon ginger tea. I can smell my perfume, my body wash. And one of my favorite parts of this, one thing that you can taste. I can taste my tea. So when you do that Take 5 method, and that's why I call it Take 5, is because you're taking 5 for yourself, it brings you back to this present moment. It's one of the few grounding practices that I like to use when I am teaching people mindfulness and meditation, because it's something that you could easily do at your desk, especially if you're stressed at work. It's something that you could easily do in this situation. And allowing yourself to come back to this present moment allows you to gain focus and be able to do that compassion action. Something else that I want to encourage you to do as an empath is to set energetic boundaries. So for me, like I mentioned, I don't like watching the news. It's really hard for me to watch. I've been watching it lately just so I can keep up to date, like where my friends are at, where the fire's at, like that kind of thing. But I've also limited it. So I don't watch it in the mornings. My other half watches it in the mornings, and I get my info from him, and then I'll watch it in the afternoons. And I have to set up that energetic boundary so that things around me do not become overwhelming. You also can set energetic boundaries with people, and not people that, of course, I'm not talking about the people that are affected by this, but I think about when people come in, and I've talked about this and I've been guilty of it, that energy dump. When you know someone is that kind of person that is going to energetically be an energy vampire or energy dump on you, then when you see that person come in or that person comes to mind, start to just say out loud, I shield my energy from what is to come. I only call in to the energy that is of my energy, and I let go of energy that is not of mine. That is not my energy. And last but not least, breath work. Breath work is such a powerful tool. So we just did the 5 method, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. And breath work, like I mentioned, if you watch the video that I put in the description box, it's like literally a 20-second video. Breath work will shift your beep, shifts your shit. It really does. Breath work is amazing. If you want to see a shift in your life, and I talked about this a little bit on last week's podcast before, it was very timely, but it was before it even happened, you want to do some breath work. My favorite breath work to do, again, is the take 3. When you just do those 3 cleaning breaths, the big inhale through the nose, the exhale out the mouth, which I shared in last week's podcast. But I also like the 4, 7, 8 method. When you inhale for a count of 4, you hold for a count of 7, you exhale for a count of 8. That's the one that I shared in the description. There's also box breathing. Box breathing is one of my favorite methods as well, where you think of a box, and I've talked about this before. You think about the box and you inhale for 4, you hold for 4, you exhale for 4, you hold at the bottom for 4, and then you continue on from there. So those are some of the ways that as an empath that you can start to get grounded within yourself so that you can turn that into that compassionate action. As empaths, we are deeply compassionate people. And it's important to not let that compassion overwhelm us. That's why we do those exercises that I just talked about. It's important to take that compassion and turn it into action and to help empower others and to help make a difference. And one of the ways that you can do this is by donating. Every little bit helps. It's probably about that time for you to clean out your closet. You probably got a whole bunch of cute new stuff for Christmas. Clean out your closet and donate some clothes. Donate some books. People need to get grounded. Maybe there is a book that you really loved and that has really impacted you. Grab a book off the shelf to donate. Donate financially if you can. And make sure to research which place that you want to donate to, especially if you're someone from another region, if you're no longer in the LA area. I'm in Southern California still. So what we did is we took some of the old yoga mats at our studio and we donated those, as well as I've put together some clothes and things that I want to donate personally. And there's shelters here that are driving that up to LA. So maybe you can find a shelter in your area that is driving things up or shipping things up to LA. But if you are in an area that maybe you're not finding that, or you're in the means to help financially, if you look at that resource in the description box, I have put a few different places that you could donate to. GoFundMe is having like a GoFundMe, just a big one on their page that you can donate, and they're going to give all of that money separated amongst those families that have lost everything. If you're looking for someone near and dear, check your Facebook groups, check your Facebook page. I'm sure there's a friend of a friend that's probably been affected by this. I'm happy to share with some people. If you know someone that needs some help, I'm happy to share that information with my followers and with my friends so that we can get them the help that they need. You can also volunteer. So if you are local and you have the opportunity to go and volunteer, please do. I mean, I was watching the news, which again, I don't like to watch the news, but I was watching the news this week and I saw that there was a landscaper and a housekeeper who were from the Altadena area, and the places that they used to work at have completely burned down. So while they're going through this crisis of, I don't have anywhere else that I'm going to work at this moment, They were out there in the neighborhoods helping like clear out the streets for the areas that are open, helping to donate food, helping to pass out that food. They were out there. They took, okay, look, this is a crisis for me too. They took that aside and they volunteered and raise awareness. That is what I'm trying to do here today, is to raise that awareness. If you're someone that has a platform that can share resources and updates, doesn't matter how big or small your platform is, please share it, repost. Before I could even come up with my little post for how to help people in this situation, I reposted Manduka, I reposted the Copper Vessel, I reposted some people that already had the resources and knew the information to share. And support local businesses. Many small businesses have been affected by this disaster. So if you can shop local or do a takeout order local. I mean, one of my favorite restaurants that's also located here in Palm Springs, the Pacific Palisades one, is completely shut down right now. I mean, I think the building is still there, but I don't know when the next time they'll actually be able to open up. So I've been supporting. I go and, order some food from the local one here because it is a small business. Like, I know the owner that owns these couple restaurants. And so me ordering from them is also helping the fact that this other restaurant is not open and who knows when it will be. And of course, if you want to look for resources for help, American Red Cross, Salvation Army, I think those two are like partnered together now. The California Fire Foundation, GoFundMe, like I mentioned, and local animal shelters. I love the animals. There's been a lot of displaced animals, so helping out with local shelters for that. But before we go, I want to remind you that it's okay to feel all the feels. You don't need to shove them away. You don't need to go down the rabbit hole with them either. But I want you to take this time to ground yourself, to protect your energy, to take small steps to make a difference. For me, this was my small step to make a difference. Maybe you're listening to this and you've been affected, or maybe you're listening to this, you know someone that's been affected. Maybe you just need to listen to this, just to listen to something, just to have a moment. It's it's the tea, it's the time, it's our girl chat time, it's our bestie time, And this week's challenge, I want you to take time to support. I want you to either repost someone, I want you to maybe volunteer if you have the space to. I want you to check in with a friend that might be experiencing something. I want you to do a grounding technique or do some breath work. I want you to come back into yourself. Acknowledge that you are an empath. Use that for compassionate action. And also know that we're all in this together. That's Ram Dass. Thank you so much for watching today. I know y'all want that tea, that Frenemy and Burn Book episode. Don't worry, it'll come out next week. And I thank you all for being part of the pod, and I wish you all well. Have a beautiful day.